Has anybody here ever played organized sports? You guys into organized sports? You ever play that? Yeah, we got 2 people, 3 people. Okay, good. More hands are coming up. You guys too tired from playing the sports to raise your hands, but that's fine. We in high school I played basketball. I loved basketball, and I was in the process of moving from JV to varsity, and they had tryouts. And those of you that have been through sports remember the tryout process. There's nothing more just exciting and really depressing at the same time as tryouts. You have this scenario where you're like, hey kids, come on in kids, do the best you can, and then we're going to tell you how your best isn't good enough. And so you didn't make it hit the road, That's really encouraging for the kids. So I was going to do tryouts for varsity team, and man, here we are. I'm really trying to make sure this new coach sees that I'm dedicated, that I'm ready. And so we get to the locker room, and all my friends were, getting changed out in our gym clothes, and here we go. And I reach into my gym bag to show that I'm really serious about something. And here's something that you got to know. In high school, I could dunk on a 10-foot rim, but only in practice, okay? It was only something I could do, when I'm just prepared for it, and not really something I could do while I'm dribbling towards the goal and dunking in, so I had to really practice, and I was really working on getting my strength up. So in the process of getting my strength up, I had a secret weapon with me in my gym bag. You guys want to see what my secret weapon was? The most beautiful things you've ever seen. Let me show you right here. Oh, yeah. This is a true story, folks. I had these things in my gym bag, and just so you know, okay, this is a platform right here, and it makes it to where you have to stand on they're kind of heavy up there, but you have to stand on your tippy toes, and you have no support in the back, and it supports it makes your calf muscles stronger. And the more you wear these, the stronger you're going to be, the more dunk power. I was going to be Jordan in no time. So I pull these things out of the gym bag, and it's taking me a while to get them, laced up. I'm kind of in the corner. I don't want other people seeing my secret weapons. They'll go get some of their own, So here we go. I got them. I'm putting them on. And by the time I finish putting them on, I realize it makes it like everybody's already out of the locker room. They've already made their way out. And I'm thinking to myself, man, they're going to be really impressed when they see this. So here I go. I'm going to make my way out. Here's like splack, 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 splack. And here I'm on my way out of the room. And I turn the corner out of the locker room into the gymnasium, and I'm kind of hoping that everybody's just shooting around, kind of getting warmed up. I'm just going to kind of nonchalantly splack my way in there. So I turn the corner, and everyone's sitting in the middle of the gym looking at the coach while he's talking to them already. So here I go. Splack, 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 splack. And about 8 steps in, I realize I probably have made a poor choice. So I turn around, and then all of a sudden the coach just goes, and he's like, and he stops, and everybody else stops, and they all turn and look at me, and he goes, "What are on your feet?" I'm like, well, and I start to explain it to me, and he interrupts, and he's like, "Take them off and go put some shoes on." Splack, 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 and I have to go all the way back. Oh, it's depressing, folks. This is tryouts. I'm going to try to show him I really know what I'm doing. I can make good choices. It's not over. Afterwards, I have to go talk to him. I'm like, "Okay, Mr. Coach, man, I've got some things I got to talk to you about. I'm really committed to this team. I can't tell you how excited I am about ready. I'm really going to be working hard here. I'm committed. But there's something you got to know. I know practices are on the evenings, and I know games are like Friday nights. So I'm really committed to my church, and we have prayer on Tuesday night. We have church on Wednesday night, and I've got youth on Friday night. But I'm committed." So if I can make the team and have all these problems in my life, then that'd be really great. So then a few days later, he posts on the wall in the gym, "Who made the team?" And everybody's running towards it all confident. They're excited, "Well, here, you're going to do it," pushing each other. And it's really, man, they're going to make the team. It's going to be exciting. And here I am kind of behind them. It'd be really nice if I made it, but the chances seem slim. I look at the list, and I'm reading down, and then I see Jason Forbush made the team. Yeah! How many know favor ain't fair? Despite all of the craziness and all the reasons why I should have never made that team, he chose me anyway. I'm going to preach today on the subject, he chose me anyway. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you for being with me today, for being with us in this service. Thank you, Lord, for your incredible power as you swept across this place as we worshiped you. I ask you now that you would touch those that are in the room and those that are watching online. Help us to receive the word that you have for us today. In Jesus' precious name we pray. And everybody said amen. So Luke 5, 1 through 11 is where we're going to start out. If you've got your word, you can go ahead and get there now. Luke 5, 1 through 11. We're going to start with verse 1. One day, as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, which is the Sea of Galilee, the people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. Verse 3, and he got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. When he finishes speaking, he said to Simon, put out into the deep water and let down the nets for a catch. Okay, so Simon answered, Master, we've been working hard all night and haven't caught anything, but because you say so, I will let down the nets. So turn to somebody and say, that makes no sense. Simon Peter, he's a professional fisherman. Okay, he's been up all night. He's used every method that he knows and even made up some, and he's got nothing. But Jesus says, go out one more time, but this time I'm coming with you. Verse number 6. When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man. For he and his companions were astonished at the catch of the fish that they had taken, and so were James and John and the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people. So they pulled up their boats on shore, left everything, and followed him. Now, this has nothing to do with my sermon, but I can't get past this point. I got to share it right here, right now. They just got the biggest blessing of their life. It's huge, okay? Everything they'd hoped for, the biggest haul of their life has just come in almost enough to sink both of their boats, all right? So all the blessings are there, but in this moment, as soon as they get to shore, they leave it all behind and follow Jesus. They wanted Jesus more than their boat and their blessing. Pretty big. Now let's get back to our regularly scheduled program. The first time Simon Peter meets Jesus, he's fresh off of failure. I mean, this is their introduction to each other. It's a lot better than the introduction, it's maybe on par for the introduction I had with my coach. They're just bad. Failure right off the bat. And he's a professional fisherman and he can't catch fish. It's like a professional carpenter with a hammer that can't hit the nail, you know? If you stopped at this passage and you didn't know anything else about Peter or the Bible, it would blow your mind when I told you how that Peter ends up as Jesus' right-hand man. You know what I'm saying? Right off the bat, you're like, what? Peter, this guy? No. He's going to preach to thousands. God's going to perform miracles through them. He's going to write 2 books of the Bible. And right now, he's not looking too much like a hero. He's looking a little bit more like a zero. He's a fisherman that can't catch fish. Peter probably looked back at this moment years later and he's thinking to himself, really, it just doesn't make any sense. But he chose me anyway. Turn to somebody and say, he chose me anyway. There's a lot of things about the situation that we're reading about here today that just doesn't make any sense, right? Starting with the fact that Peter fishes for a living and he can't catch anything, and that's something that, is absolutely within his wheelhouse, but nothing's working. And somebody here today, you know exactly what he's feeling here. You've been doing what you know to do, but you're not producing any results. There's a lot of input, but there's not really a lot of output. You've been hitting the gym every day of the week, it seems like, and you've tried all the new diets, and you're going carb-free and gluten-free and dairy-free and maybe even food-free. And the scale isn't moving in the right direction. Sometimes it moves in the wrong direction. How in the world does that happen? Or you've outworked everybody at the office, but they still give the raise to somebody else. Or you've applied yourself to your job for 20 years or you applied to 20 jobs. How about that one? And you still can't get a call back from any of them. Everything you do, it just doesn't seem to work out. You read 7 books on how to find the right spouse, the right one that's going to love and cherish you forever, the one that's reserved for you, and he or she just hasn't shown up yet, and somehow it seems like they're playing an elaborate game of hide and seek, and they're really good at it. Or you're doing all you know to do to raise your kids right, and they're still struggling, and it feels like the situation's getting worse instead of better. Or you're fighting against the temptation to return to an old habit or an addiction, but every morning you wake up, you still feel that pull towards that thing that you're desperately trying to leave behind. Effort is not equaling to progress, and it doesn't make sense. I want to help you gain a deeper understanding, a deeper appreciation for how Peter responded to this situation. I want you to think about something that you've been trying your best to achieve that just hasn't happened. Think about it right now. Something you've been working to achieve. You would love to have happen in your life and it just hasn't happened. Maybe it was something I named. Maybe it was something different. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, you just feel stuck and you're back at square one and you've worked hard, but it hasn't materialized. I want you to tell me how you would respond if there's a man that you just met him, and they're saying, hey, that thing that you're really struggling with, that thing that you're getting nowhere with, I want you to do the exact same thing that you've been doing, but this time it's going to work. And, it'd be difficult, I think. This is just my opinion here. It'd be difficult for most people that I know to not tell Jesus when he comes up to them. You're just meeting him, and Jesus, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you telling me. But this is going to come across as a little bit rude. So don't, just best intentions here, Jesus. But what if you stick to the teaching and the preaching and stuff, and you let me do the fishing? Because that's kind of what I do. You stay in your lane, and I'll stay in my lane, and we'll just kind of get along real good. But don't take any offense, Jesus. It's not personal. That's what we'd probably want to say. Let me do the fishing thing. Let me ask you this question. You got to be honest with me. How many loves calling tech support? You just love it. At least we have some honest people in the room because no one raised their hand. One person raised their hand. That's amazing. All right. I don't really, but it's just so much fun to call tech support and wait on the phone for 47 minutes to talk to somebody. They ask for all your account details, which you're like, oh my goodness, account? What? I don't know my account number. Then they ask for your second cousin's middle name, then your dead dog's nickname, then the address of the hospital you were born in, then your favorite color of your favorite flavor of your Christmas cookie. And you're like, what in the world? Who knows? Why do I ever need to know this stuff? And finally, when you get in there and you finally answer all their questions, they're saying, sorry, you have the wrong department. We're going to need to transfer you. You wait on hold forever again, and you finally get somebody, and you tell them all that information again, and then they ask you this question. They ask you the question that almost every time they will ask you, have you tried restarting it? Hey, whatever it is, your phone, you're trying. Have you tried rebooting it? Have you? Yes, I've tried. I tried 30 times while I was waiting on the phone with you. That's the first thing I've tried. But because you're a professional and because you've asked me to, I'm going to do it one more time. It happens all the time. Well, that's exactly what Peter was doing here. He said, Master, I've tried everything. Of course, I tried putting my nets on that side. I tried that side. I tried everything I know to do. But because you say to do it, I'll do it one more time. He went out one more time to do the same thing the same way. And there is one drastic difference this time. This time, Jesus is on board. And that's a game changer. Peter used the same methods, but he got an entirely different motivation this time. Jesus said, go, and he went. Peter got something right here that a lot of us get wrong from time to time. When he heard the word from the Lord, he didn't overthink it, he just obeyed. And the results were incredible. He pulled in so many fish that his nets began to break and the boat begins to sink. And the blessings was beyond anything that he could ask for or imagine. It was Peter's obedience that prompted God's provision. Breakthrough is always on the other side of obedience. Breakthrough is always on the other side of obedience. You can't reason your way to a spiritual breakthrough. You can't reason that. You can't argue your way to a spiritual breakthrough. If you want God to make a change in your situation, you have to trust and you have to obey. If you want something from God, you have to first trust and then obey. If you want a miracle, trust first, obey, then God will provide. If you want a healing, trust, obey. If you want a spouse, trust, obey. You can't manipulate God. You can't force it. You can't play your cards right. We have to trust and obey. Here's what we have to understand. Obeying God's word doesn't always make sense, but it always works. How much of that stuff out there in science and all that other mess that we just don't understand? I don't understand how we got to the moon, but I also believe that it happened. I don't believe it's all a big hoax. You know, I don't know. I mean, like rockets and like satellites and stuff. Space, does it even exist? You know, I don't need to understand it to believe that, you know what? There's some things that I don't understand, but it still makes them true. You get what I'm saying? And just because I don't get everything that God does and the way that he works and those mysterious things that he does, just because I can't comprehend all of it and calculate it in my mind doesn't mean it's not true. So we don't have to understand it. We have to just trust and obey whether we understand it or not. Tell the police officer that pulls you over for something, you know what I'm saying? I didn't understand the law, so I didn't do it. And he's like, I don't care if you understood it or not. It's the law. And that's the way things work with God. He says, it doesn't matter if you understand it. Just trust me and it's going to be okay. If you know very much about Peter, you know that there's a lot more going on here than that just doesn't make sense. If you looked at this situation that he was in, it's really just unusual for sure. But when we take a look at his life that he's lived up until this point, it gets really strange. Okay, the question immediately comes to mind, why would Jesus choose to use this guy? I mean, really, Peter. How could someone with this personality and past like Peter become Jesus' right hand? How is that possible? He's all over the place emotionally and spiritually throughout the gospel. Jesus eventually calls him Petros, or rock, meaning unwavering or steady. But this guy is anything but consistent when he first starts following Jesus. So he gets it incredibly right sometimes. And then other times he gets it really, really wrong. And for a lot of reasons, it just doesn't make sense that Jesus chose Peter. But I think the more that we study his life, the better we start to feel about ourselves. Peter is far from perfect, and that's what makes him incredibly relatable. See, he has amazing faith sometimes, but he also has some flaws that probably sound pretty familiar to us. And a lot of the same things that would have disqualified Peter from being used by God are incredible things and all, but they could have disqualified us. And it doesn't make sense that he chose Peter. And for a lot of the same reason, it doesn't make sense that he would choose us. It's incredible to know that there's someone in the Bible that we can relate to, because sometimes we really do some things right, but boy, do we seem to mess it up sometimes. I'm just following along with my life, and I'm doing things as best I can do. And then, today's a great day. It's a nice Sunday. I'm doing things great. But Tuesday comes along, and we do something stupid. And we're like, how could God ever love somebody like me? Look at Peter and see what God did for him. One of the first reasons it makes no sense for the human mind that Jesus chose Peter is because of his failure. Everybody say failure. Think about it. For the first time that Peter met Jesus, he was fresh off of failure. He had spent all night out there fishing, and he caught nothing. It would make more sense that Jesus would choose someone that was actually good at their job. If I'm a talent scout for the NFL, I'm looking for people that are throwing touchdowns. I'm not looking for people that are fumble folks. That's the best I could come up with in a moment. I'm not looking for people that continually turn the ball over, people that can't throw. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for people that are producing results right now. And that's the way we look for things in humankind. We want to predict. The best predictor of how someone's going to be in the future is how they're doing right now. That's how we look at it, but thank God that's not how he looks at it. So Peter is standing on an empty boat, and he's looking at failure. And we've all lived through these moments where we haven't measured up to our expectations or others' expectations, and we felt like a failure. And somebody might be feeling that way right here, right now, here, or online. You maybe lost a job recently, and you don't really know how you're going to provide for yourself or for your family, and you're feeling like a failure. Maybe you've been given a great opportunity of some kind, and you blew it, or and it's a struggle to keep your head up at this point. Or maybe someone had confidence in you, and they were counting on you to come through, and you didn't, and you feel like a failure. Maybe you made a promise to yourself that I would never do this again, but you did, and now you feel defeated and ashamed. Whatever our failures might be, when they occur, they leave us feeling like God would never want to use someone like us. We've all had these moments that are described here in Luke 5, moments where we're standing in an empty boat, feeling completely defeated and trying to figure out where we messed things up. Really, what went wrong? And I'm just standing here. Am I being in a real church here today? Am I in a real church that you guys know what I'm talking about? You've been standing there. You're saying, God, I don't know where did I mess up? This moment where I'm like, God, really, I got myself in a real mess here. But if it's because Peter's boat was empty that there was room for Jesus to be in the boat in the first place. If Peter had a boat that was full, there wouldn't be any room for what Jesus was trying to do in him and through him and to him. There was no room for him to step into his situation if his boat was full. Peter's problem caused him to be open to instruction. He had no fish, so he was all ears when it come time for God to instruct him. There had to be room in his boat for God to be able to step in to begin with. Let me tell you, if you've got some emptiness in your life right now, if there's a dream that seems to be dead right now, if some things haven't turned out the way that you hoped they would turn out, if things didn't go your way, the way that you really hoped, and you've landed in a mess and you're realizing that you don't have all of the answers, you are ready for Jesus to step in. You're finally prepared. You're finally ready for Jesus to intervene. Peter would have never chosen to have an empty boat. He wouldn't have designed that. What I'm hoping for in life is a lot of brokenness and emptiness. That's what I'm looking for. There's nobody in this room that wants that. Everybody in this room, if you had the choice, most likely you would say, I'd like my boat to be full, please, thank you. I would really like it to be where I didn't need to ask God every week for something. It'd be nice if I just had it so I didn't have to ask God for it. That's the way Peter would have designed it. We all want our boats to be full. We want to fill our boats with things like busyness and success and money and likes and followers and accolades. And we want all of that stuff around us. And our boats are so full sometimes that Jesus can't fit in. And it's just like Peter, sometimes the best thing that can happen to us is to be put into a situation where we don't have what it takes. And we have to look to the one that does have what it takes. So Peter, he had failures, but he also had imperfections. Somebody say imperfections. He was a highly emotional guy. One minute he's passionately telling us that he'll never leave Jesus nor forsake him. Even if everybody else does, he's not going to. The next minute he's crying uncontrollably because he did just that very thing. We can find him full of compassion for people he's trying to win them to the Lord, but you can also find him full of rage, trying to take somebody's ear off with a sword. Sometimes Jesus is telling him, he's like, hey, blessed are you, Simon, because you've got an incredible revelation from God. Another time, Jesus is telling Peter, get behind me, Satan, you're an offense to me. Woo! Imagine being called Satan by Jesus. I'm like, take my boat, take my nets, take it all, I'm done. Well, that's about as bad as it gets. He could say or do something great and turn around and say or do something really stupid afterwards. Really good and then really dumb. If I ask you right now, let me ask you this. If I ask you to make two lists, one list of all the things that you like about yourself and another list of all the things you can't stand about yourself, some of you would ask for a few extra reams of paper for the list you don't like about yourself, because that would be so easy to just keep writing. I ask all the time in my counseling sessions and those sorts of things. I'm saying, hey, tell me a few things you like about yourself. If I talk to you about this, you come prepared, because I'm going to probably ask you. Why? Because it's a trick question that always works. People almost always like about 3 things, and they always hate about 75 things. That's the way we are. Some of you would probably ask for a CVS receipt that you can write all your stuff on, because that's how long the list may be. 3 people in here has been to CVS and seen how long their receipts are. One way or another, we know that we just like few things about ourselves, but there's so much that we want to change. We love to change who we are, and almost without exception, we want to be someone different than we are. We want so much about ourselves to be different. We have some things about ourselves that we don't like, the way we look, the way we talk, the personality type that we might have, and we wish that we had someone else's strengths, and we wish someone else had our weaknesses. And scrolling through social media has made only that worse. So much worse. Because we're going through and we're seeing everybody else's highlight reel when we've got our own behind-the-scenes footage that we're looking at every day. And the longer we scroll, the worse we feel. And the only ones, we're the only ones that just can't seem to get it together. And it was when Moses was focused on his imperfections that he told God, you can't use me. I'm not eloquent. I'm not a leader, but people won't listen to me. And none of his arguments changed God's mind. Moses looked at himself and he saw the problems, and God looked at him and saw the potential. God's will won out, and the rest is history. People are critical, and it's what we do to others. We criticize, and it's most certainly what we do to ourselves. We see the worst, but we need to know today that God is looking through a different lens. He's looking down at you today through the lens of love, through the lens of grace, through the lens of mercy, through the lens of long suffering. And he sees what we can become, not just what we are right now. Stop worrying about what you're not and start trying to make Jesus happy, and the rest will work itself out. Stop freaking out about who I'm not and what I need to accomplish and how I need to make myself and how I have to build myself and climb this ladder or do that. Make Jesus happy, and I promise you the rest works out. Let me mention this. Quit trying to be liked by everybody because you don't even like everybody. I want everybody to like me, but I don't like everybody. It doesn't make any sense. Stop trying to make sure everybody likes you. Make sure Jesus likes you and you're going to be fine. I assure you he does. So Peter's got imperfections, but it doesn't end there. So there's more to this man that could make us question why Jesus would actually choose him. In verse 7, the Bible says, so they signaled their partners in the other boat to come and help them, and they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. Woo! The boats are so full. My goodness, this is a miracle. I mean, a blessing unparalleled happening right here in our boat. Is so full, it's just almost going to sink. It's amazing. What's Peter's reaction to this amazing miracle? What's he going to say? Woo! Let's read it. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell to his knees and said, go away from me, Lord, I'm a sinful man. What? This is his reaction to one of the greatest miracles that's ever happened in his life. He's finally got the windfall that he's been wanting. And he's like, Jesus, get away from me. Peter is doing what we typically do. As soon as something good starts to happen, we're confident that it's going to fall apart because something that's wrong with us or the sins of our past. Apparently, there's some things in his past that made him feel like the last place he belonged was right next to Jesus. See, he had committed some sin, and he had a not so flattering history. See, sin will either make us turn to God or it will make us turn away from God. Sin will either make it to where, God, I've sinned, I messed up, and God, I can't wait to get to your feet so I can ask for forgiveness and get things right with you because I'm turning to you for that healing and forgiveness. Or we can find ourselves turning away from God because we're ashamed of who we are, what we've done. But why does Jesus need to leave? Why does he want Jesus to leave? Why not Peter leave? Could it be that Peter is feeling like we do, so we're stuck in our circumstance? We seem tied down to our dilemma. We're saying, this is my boat, this is my mess, this is my life, this is the way it needs to be, and it's just a matter of time before it falls apart. And you say, well, I don't know if that's me or not. I believe it's more of us than we'd like to admit. Oh man, God, I'm really hoping for something good, but as soon as something good happens, we're wondering when it's going to mess up, when it's going to fall apart. I have a tendency to mess things up. Some people say, I knew it. That's one of the worst things to say. I knew it when something bad happens. I knew it. Of course. Well, that's what's in our mind. That's how we feel about ourselves. We knew all along that it was going to fall apart. That's what we're seeing here that Peter is doing. So he says, I'm stuck in my mess. So the boat is going down and he's telling Jesus to leave. They're in the middle of the Sea of Galilee and he tells Jesus to leave. Does that seem weird to anyone? Where is Jesus going to go? Where's he going? Is it possible that somewhere in Peter's mind that he knew that Jesus could just step out of the boat if he wanted to? That Jesus could just walk back to the shore, that Jesus could perform such a powerful miracle, that Jesus had the power to save himself from a sinking boat, but not Peter. Peter's essentially saying, Jesus, save yourself, but I'm a lost cause. Jesus, you could do amazing things here, but not in my boat, not for me. And the enemy, he's the master of telling us and getting us to feel like our sin is somehow worse than everybody else's. He tells us things like, nobody has a past as bad as you. Nobody struggles like you do. And if they only knew the battles that you sometimes fight in your mind. He'll even try to tell us from time to time that if God really knew what you were like, he would turn his back on you. Well, I've got news for you. He knows exactly what you are like. He knows every failure, he knows every flaw, and he knows every weakness. And this is what he has to say about that. I will never fail you. I will never abandon you. Don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. That's how he feels about your failure. That's how he feels about your hidden secrets. That's how he feels about your mind that you struggle to control. This is how he feels. The Bible says that while we were deep in sin, he died to set us free. Sin has to be dealt with in the life of a child of God. We can't ignore it. And if it's there, we need to do something about it. But God doesn't give up on us when we miss the mark. Here's something that is leading us to repentance and extending grace is when we see Jesus the way that he actually is, with his arms outstretched, ready to receive us when we mess up. So verse 9 closes out Peter's past and paves the way for a future that he never dreamed of. He said, don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people. He's saying, Peter, I'm going to use everything that you thought disqualified you. All the things that you're ashamed of, all those things that you felt that you did, they're going to help you to understand and empathize with the people that you're trying to reach. You're going to fish for people. I'd like you to say that, fish for people. The next time the enemy starts telling you the reasons why God can't use you, why you're unqualified, I want you to remember this word. This is the word that Peter, the lesson that Peter was being taught by God himself. Your failures are going to make you more humble. Your imperfections are going to force you to rely on me. The sin that you came out of is going to help you understand exactly what people who are currently living in sin need to hear. And your history is going to serve as a testimony to the fact that I can redeem and I can restore anybody, regardless of where they came from and what they're coming through. Fish. I want to point out one more passage in closing today. I want you to pay attention. This is very important. The whole thing started with Peter telling Jesus to get off the boat. Get off the boat. I can't do this. Hey, walk on water if you have to, but leave my presence immediately because I'm too unworthy. Let's jump ahead a few years. I'm excited about this. Let's jump ahead a few years in Scripture. We're going to go to Matthew 14 and 24, okay? Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. They were afraid that they were going to sink. Does that sound familiar? Sound like something that they experienced a few years before? Let's go to verse 25. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them walking on water. And when the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. And in their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost!" Let's go to verse 28. Then Peter called to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." "Yes, come," Jesus said. The disciples think it's a ghost, but who's the first one to recognize that it's Jesus? It's Peter. And this time he's saying, Jesus, I don't want you to leave this time. I want you to save me this time. I don't want you to go. I want you to bid me to come to you, and I will come. Peter steps over the side of that old fishing boat into the uncertainty of a raging sea and slowly takes a walk towards his Savior on that water. And Jesus is there with his arms outstretched as if to say, "Peter, despite how you feel about yourself, I choose you anyway." Peter now knows, despite my worst failures, he chose me anyway. Although I'm imperfect and broken, he chose me anyway. Even though I have committed sins, he chose me anyway. Despite my history, he chose me anyway. Would you stand? I want you to raise your hands all over this congregation, even if you're online. Raise your hands right now and let the Lord know, I will not despise my emptiness. I will not despise my brokenness, for that is what you need to intervene. God showed me something this morning, and I believe it's true in this service as well. That across the room, there's people saying, God, I really need you to fill this void. I need you to fill my boat. I've got brokenness, I've got emptiness, I've got loneliness, depression. I need you to fill this mess that I'm in. I need to. And the issue is that boat is already full. The boat's full. And as we begin to pray and we're saying, God, I'm not really feeling you right now. I'm not, where are you at? I really need you to just overtake me. And he's saying the prerequisite for me being in your life and doing a work in your life is there has to be room. And if we're not careful, we come into this place ready to worship maybe, but not ready to really receive what he has for us because we're just so full of stuff. Stuff that's maybe from the world, stuff that from ourselves, maybe it's pride, maybe it's insecurities, maybe it's sin, maybe it's just mess from life. And our boat is so full that we're saying, Jesus, where are you? Step into my boat. And he's saying, make room and I'll be there. Make room for me and I'll show up. If there's something in your life, unforgiveness, anger, pride, jealousy, any sin, any just the cares of life, ambitions, whatever it is, we have to say, I'm willing to just get all of that out. And God, I just want you to step in, because when he's in the boat, that's when the miracles happen. When he's in the boat, everything you've been hoping for, everything you've been fishing for, your life becomes a reality. When he's in the boat, let's raise our hands one more time and say, God, empty me out. Empty me out, God. I want you. Not the junk that's in my life. I want you. Step in. I will trust and obey you when it's difficult, when it's hard to see, when it's hard to understand. Because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt now, after hearing your word, that you chose me anyway.